So, welcome to Lost Ladies Found, which is the new YouTube channel. My name's Graham Watts. I'm the chief mansplainer here at Lost Ladies Found. You could call me director or curator if you like, but that seems to be the title that everybody has chosen for me. Let me explain a little bit about the purposes of this particular project. Now, the primary one, as you might imagine, is to get these wonderful plays written by women over the years, to give them a platform. They haven't had a platform before. Most of the plays that you'll see on this channel have either had just one performance or no performances at all. There'll be some that you might be familiar with from sort of reading and so on. Others that you probably never heard of before. And we put their plays up there as well, so that we build a kind of a database of all these wonderful plays. The objective being that if you're a lecturer, if you're a teacher, if you're working in a drama school, if you're a producer, if you're a director, you can produce these plays. They're actually really difficult to get hold of. As I say, a lot of them aren't published. For example, the very first one that you'll see, Margaret Cavendish's The Unnatural Tragedy, written probably around 1660-ish, published in 1662, but never, published by herself in 1662, I should say, but never in modern times. So people don't have access to them. Now they do, is the objective. No excuses. We want to change the repertoire. There has to be a more gender balanced repertoire. Now we get things like David Hare at the National Theatre. Goodness knows how many plays that he's had put on there, but you get the impression that, if he wrote out his shopping list, it would get a full production on the Olivier stage. That has to stop. And I think that all of these plays that you're seeing on this channel, all of them deserve a place at the table. They should be there back on stage along with everyone else. Now, I got into this by producing plays many years ago, actually, when I found the Cavendish play. I discovered that in a footnote, and that's where you'll discover most of these women, in a footnote. To find the actual play, a copy of the play, was extremely difficult. I looked under, went to British Library, looked under Cavendish, looked under Margaret Cavendish, looked under Margaret Lucas Cavendish, and so on. Still couldn't find her, and I thought, oh, I know what I do. I tried her title, The Duchess of Newcastle. Tried that, no luck whatsoever. It was actually filed under Marchioness, which is her official title, the Marchioness of Newcastle. So I was able to get it. That's how much effort has to go into finding these plays. But if you put the effort in, it's remarkable. I have a personal sort of database of about 200 odd plays, probably more than that actually, written by women from all over different periods. The thing that holds them together is just how extraordinarily imaginative they are. Taking the Margaret Cavendish, because it's the first one that you'll see. What you see she actually wrote a film script, which is ideal for Zoom, obviously. Plays with these very short scenes of sort of 4 or 5 lines, and stories which just drop in and then just drop out again. There's no connection between the 4 plots within that particular play. As I say, when people have had enough to say, they just stop, So it's not those plays that you associate, particularly with the Restoration period, of being overblown and overwritten and so on and so forth. So that's the objective, and they're free. It's entirely done voluntarily. We get no funding whatsoever, apart from what I put into it. All the performers that you'll see are doing it entirely voluntarily, and we ask you to join us. We want it to remain free. We want it to be out there on a public channel so that students and actors and so on and so forth can have access, finally, after all these years, to all these wonderful plays. The other objective, and I realize this, is that during the pandemic, actors didn't get, and still don't, chance to act. So what we try to do is to replicate a common rehearsal process. We can rehearse at any time, of course, because it's on Zoom. We don't need to book a rehearsal room or anything like that. But we rehearse over a prolonged period, usually around 3 weeks. And that could be 3 Saturdays. That could be, 3 or 4 times a week for a couple of hours after work or whatever it happens to be. But we work towards 2 things. The first thing is a recording. So it's there in the public domain for everybody to look at. And if we cock up, then we can just go back and re-record it. And the other thing is to do that, the live performance. So we have a live performance on Zoom, which the actors love, because again, it's like, those first night nerves and so on and so forth. And we work towards that, and it goes out live again to an invited audience. Just ask us, we'll send you the link, come along and watch. And one thing that I also realized, and I'd always taken the audiences for granted, I think, in the past, is just how much audiences love that Zoom evening when we perform live, because it's like real theatre. If things go wrong, they go wrong, and so on. And the feedback that we've had from the 3 that I've done today has been phenomenal, because people are just saying to me, thank you, thank you, thank you. We have theatre back. And they tell me all these stories of sitting down as a family and eating nuts and drinking wine and so on and so forth. Some even make their own programs so that they can replicate that theatre experience. So yeah, that's what it's about. And certainly, the actors, the feedback I got from actors is that they were back. There was that feeling, I haven't lost it. I can still do it. I will still do it. Theatre's back. I'm back. And that, I think, in itself is tremendously rewarding. The other thing that we want to do is to explore the Zoom form. I mean, it's a very different form. It's not radio, although there are elements of radio, obviously, within it. It's certainly not film, and it's not quite theatre. So what is it? Well, it's Zoom. And as we go through, we've been making all kinds of different discoveries, ways that we can present these stories, in particular to the plays. And that's been genuinely exciting to make those, and we'll make more. I'm not saying these are definitive. You can see by my background there, which is rubbish, that we haven't quite got the technology sorted yet, but we will, and we'll keep persevering. And as more and more people contribute, then that can only get better. We'll make more and more discoveries. The other thing that I was quite anxious to do is to make it cross-cultural. This is not an Anglo-white channel, or certainly that's not the objective of it. Which is why the Unnatural Tragedy comes from 15 actors scattered throughout India, in different places in India. Again, that's been a rewarding experience because we can share, and we'd like people to think of this as an international channel. These plays belong to the world. They don't belong to a single country or a single group of people. They belong to the world. So I'd encourage people to do their own interpretation or whatever, dependent on their own culture, and bring it to the table, put it on the database. And that's where I'm asking people to collaborate. I certainly don't want to direct all of these plays myself. It'd be nice to get some women directing plays, and certainly, some all-female casts and so on and so forth. But let's make sure that this is a kind of world theatre and not just restricted to the UK where I'm based. So if you're a director, if you've got your own theatre group, if you've got a group of friends that are there, no matter where you are in the world, let's collaborate. I'm putting it out there, let's collaborate. I've got enough plays that I can give you that you can record yourselves and add to the channel. I've got a pro Zoom license you can use, and so on and so forth. I wouldn't interfere. The only thing that I would make sure is that the people who are involved in this project are nice people, people who are dedicated to their craft, people who really care about the work and getting these plays out there to a wider audience, and enjoy working with other people. So if you're a pain in the ass, we don't want you. If you're nice, come on board. We'd be more than happy to have you. I talk about some of the plays. Now, I said earlier that they're really unique, these plays. What tends to happen, in my opinion, is because the women thought that they were unlikely to ever be performed, they just use their imagination, because who cares? They're not going to be performed anyway. I might as well do what I want to do. And so the plays that you will see will be quality. They're not just up there because they're women. They're there because they're extraordinary women. And the stories behind them, of course, are equally extraordinary. I can think off the top of my head of Elizabeth Robbins, also known as Eliza Robbins. Apparently, George Bernard Shaw made a pass at her, and she pulled a gun on him. And many people would say, if only she pulled the trigger, but she didn't, unfortunately, but there you go. She also traveled to Nome in Alaska, which is about as far north in Alaska as you can possibly get. This is in the late 19th century. It's nigh on impossible to get to Nome today without the aid of an aircraft. And she did it on her own, a single woman on her own, from London all the way to Nome in the north of Alaska. Extraordinary person. Unfortunately, the plays of hers that I've read aren't quite up to scratch. So I'm afraid she doesn't make the cut. So I'm sorry, Eliza, about that. But we want only the best that's out there. Let me talk about some of them. We'll certainly do Henrietta Darwin's The New Year. Henrietta Darwin wrote kind of folk plays based in Gloucestershire. Really remind me of the work of J.M. Sing and those Irish folk plays. But Henrietta Darwin was the, or Florence Henrietta Darwin, I guess her real name is, was the daughter-in-law of Charles Darwin, the famous Charles Darwin, and wrote wonderful plays. You've probably never heard of her. You've probably never heard of Gertrude Robbins either. No relation to Elizabeth Eliza Robbins, but she was writing in the 1910, 1912 period, these really short plays, of course, before women even had the vote, about the female experience, and they're extraordinary pieces. There are others that you will probably have heard of and have been performed in modern times. Susan Glaspell's Inheritors, for example, which is one of the great American plays. I mean, it really is. It's just stupendous play. And so hopefully an American group will do that. I will do Mary Picks's The Spanish Wives, which is from 1696. Unusual for Mary Picks. It's not plot laden. Normally her plots are really complicated. This one isn't. It's more character driven. And the one I really want to do is Francis Sheridan's The Dupe, again from 1762. So quite a time after Mary Picks, although she's grouped in the same collections and so on and so forth. Now, why is Frances Sheridan important? Well, of course, she's very important because she's the mum of the famous Richard Brinsley Sheridan, R.B. Sheridan. Of course, we all know him, don't we? All of his wonderful plays in the late 1700s, early 1800s. Unfortunately, of course, let me think about this. Frances Sheridan wrote a play called A Trip to Bath, and her son wrote a play called A Trip to Scarborough. And you see where I'm going on this? Because Frances Sheridan, who was an actress and a playwright, obviously, wrote a character in one of her plays who mispronounced all her words. And funnily enough, her son, in a play called The Rivals, also wrote a character who mispronounces all her words. Curious coincidence, isn't it? Yeah. In fact, in The Rivals, Mrs. Malaprop, and malapropisms, we all know the word, has come down to us. Some of it was stolen word for word from his mother, can you believe? So if you see a production of The Rivals anywhere, please pick it if it says R.B. Sheridan or Richard Sheridan, because it wasn't written by him. It was written by Frances Sheridan and Richard Sheridan. And that's the kind of story that I'm telling people. And of course they say, oh no, that's not true. Actually, it is true. And you can see the level of subjection that these women have endured over these many, many years, hopefully up until now. I've spoken at too great a length. That's one of my faults, I would have you know. The thing I would say is that the plays have to be written before 1925 if they were written in America, and 70 years after the playwright died if it's in the UK. That's because of copyright laws. There are loads of wonderful plays that I'd like to do. I mean, Gary, Sophie Treadwell's Gary, which I did the world premiere of in 2019. I'd love to do that one. I did a Zoom performance of Gita Sowbury's Direct Action. Again, a world premiere, a play literally found in a hat box. I did that as a Zoom performance a few months ago, but of course I can't put it out there in the public domain because they're not out of copyright yet, and it would cost me thousands of pounds. Just to give you an example of just how much it costs, the one performance, and it was one single performance of Gita Sowbury's Direct Action, which I wasn't allowed to record, even though it was to a non-paying audience of less than 100 who were invited, it still cost me £80 in royalty fees. So obviously over a run of 3 or 4 weeks, or indeed sticking on YouTube, it would cost me thousands. So unfortunately, those two and others, we just can't do. I'd like to produce plays in languages other than English. I'd like to have the plays captioned. I'd like to employ British Sign Language, certainly in terms of racial, disability, trans, and so on, awareness. Come and join us. We want you there. Contact me, my website's there. You can send me an email, message, whatever it is that you want to do. But come on board. The objective is to, as I say, get these plays out in the public domain. When this horrible COVID goes away and we all get back on stage, let's hope we see the plays on stage, because they really are wonderful plays. The only thing that I would say is that if you do them, just acknowledge us. That's all. That's all we need. It's not going to cost you anything. Just acknowledge us and support our work. And hopefully you'll enjoy watching them as much as we enjoy producing them. So that's my introduction, and I hope it lives up to the billing of these wonderful plays. Put the comments below, as you know. Subscribe if you can. Get the word out there. Let's get these ladies sing. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.